Hey you! Hi there friend, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about which book changed my view on death 360 degrees. It changed my view on the afterlife and it was very liberating to read this book, and I'm also going to share other books that are phenomenal, and by reading these books I really do believe you can get rid of your fear of dying, of death, and what awaits us after we leave this physical body. I really do believe that this body is just a vessel that we're in for some short time during our time here on earth, after which we move on and actually we go back home. I really do believe that that is our real home. Our soul, our pure energy is our real home, and this is just a dress that we take while we are here on earth. And I'm sure many of you have heard this several times. I really did believe this. Since childhood, I used to be so scared, thinking that is that all there is? After we pass away, do we not go on? I refuse to believe that this is all there is. I really did. And I have spoken about this before, how I grew up with the paranormal since I was a little child. I've had so many experiences that have helped me to keep an open mind. And I love watching near-death experiences on YouTube because it's just so liberating, and it's a relief to be able to listen to these amazing cases. Okay, so I'm gonna share the first book that really changed my whole view on the afterlife and helped me shed all my fears surrounding death. It's this book right here. It's by Dr. Raymond Moody, My Life in the Pursuit of the Afterlife. Now, if you don't know about Dr. Raymond Moody, I highly suggest you check out his works. He's the grandfather of the near-death experience movement. He's the one who coined the term NDE in the 70s with his first book, which I have here, Life After Life. This is an equally amazing read, but let me tell you a little background of how I came across this book, okay? I wasn't keeping well, and this was like in the early 2000s, and I had never heard of Dr. Raymond Moody. And I remember I went to this bookstore where I wouldn't visit that bookstore so often because it was really far away, and I was like escaping my house for a particular reason. And when I was there, I couldn't find anything that would catch my eye, and as I was leaving the bookstore, I saw this book all the way at the back of the shelf, at the end of the shelf, in red. The red really stood out to me, where it says Paranormal. And when I asked the helpers in the bookstore about this book, do they have any more by this author, they didn't have any idea about this author, and that's okay. There are many people who don't know about him, and then there are a whole bunch of people who do. Anyway, I'm so grateful that I read this book and I bought this book. I really believe in the saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The same applies to books. When you are ready to grasp the knowledge that's shared in the book, it will really stand out to you in a different way. Because you could have a book in front of you for years on end and not read it, only to later realize it's exactly what you needed to elevate your consciousness. He has many wonderful books out there. I have with me right now some of them because the other books, my dad has them, and I have many of them on Kindle. However, I have read most of his works with pleasure. This is called The Light Beyond. And Paul Perry has also co-authored 5 books with Dr. Raymond Moody. I have 3 of his books here. The Life After Life, My Life in the Pursuit of the Afterlife, the first book I read. There's The Light Beyond. There's also another book called Glimpses of Eternity. And there are many more. You can check them out on Goodreads or Google them. But all I'm trying to say is, after reading this book, you're going to not fear death anymore. These are beautiful reads. And let me read a little bit, okay, for you. So, I'm just reading what it says in the back of this book. My Life in the Pursuit of the Afterlife. It is research such as Dr. Moody presents that will enlighten many and will confirm what we have been taught for 2,000 years. There is life after death. And this is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Now, if you didn't know about her, she's also a very prolific writer. Let me just share something about her with you. She was a Swiss-American psychiatrist, a pioneer in near-death studies, an author of the internationally best-selling book On Death and Dying, published in 1969, where she discussed her theory of the 5 stages of grief known as the Kubler-Ross model. She passed away in 2004. That's her. Okay, so let me read. I'm reading this with you because I really want you to read Dr. Raymond Moody's books. Trust me, you're going to thank yourself for it later. And it really helped. And it's not just Dr. Raymond Moody that I'm going to be sharing with you here. Also, I'm going to share some books by James Van Praagh. Well, I have one of his books here. Actually, 2 of his books. And also The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. I'll just get to those. See, these are my favorite books. And I'm so happy that I have them. And even though I'm used to reading on Kindle now, I will never, ever part ways with these paperback editions because they are gems. And they're not just books, but it's a study. It's almost like a Bible, you know. You can always refer back to these for comfort. And it's so important to understand life from a spiritual perspective, especially in this day and age when you know how it's like in the world. Okay, anyway, let me get back to reading this for you. Okay, here it goes. Few people have had the opportunity to single-handedly change the face of medicine. But that is precisely what Dr. Raymond Moody did when he published his classic work, Life After Life, in 1975. In it, he introduced the concept of the near-death experience, or the NDE, and opened up a whole new field of research. Okay, and let's see. Dr. Moody has been at the forefront of investigations into life after death ever since. He has gone on to examine virtually every aspect of the paranormal as it relates to a better understanding of the human spirit. So with this book, he shared his remarkable story. In Paranormal, he recalls his pioneering research into phenomena such as NDEs, reincarnation, hauntings, and ghosts. Compellingly honest, he also reveals deeply personal aspect of his own life, including his battle with a debilitating disease that nearly drove him to taking his life. Skeptics should remember that near-death experiences had no scientific standing before Moody's research established the phenomenon as a legitimate field of inquiry. This is an amazing book. My dad is really sweet. He even covered this up with plastic. He does that. Okay, so another book. By the way, when I was grieving the loss of my first pet, he was more than a pet. It's always weird for animal lovers to refer to their pet as pets or dog because we see them as our own children, as our own babies. So when I first lost one of my first babies, I had a very hard time. It was the first time I ever lost any pet. And during that time, I remember reading James Van Praagh's book called Talking to Heaven. So if any of you are grieving and it's just very painful for you, I'd highly recommend that you read his book, Talking to Heaven. It's an amazing book. It really helped me understand the whole process of dying and the soul. The soul never really dies. The soul always transitions and moves on. It's just that our loved ones leave us on the physical plane, but that doesn't mean that they're gone. They watch over us. And James Van Praagh, in his other books, he's even mentioned that how pets, once they move on, once they leave their physical body, they even have a tendency to come back and visit the places in their owner's house where they used to like to rest, they used to play. They actually do visit us, and they become our guardian angels. Our loved ones do. I really believe that. I lost my mom to COVID in 2021, and it's been 3 years, and it was very difficult because the manner in which she went was traumatic for me. I wasn't able to say goodbye to her. I was her sole caretaker. However, I know that many people went through similar ordeals, But not being able to say goodbye to your loved one is the hardest, and especially in such gruesome circumstances. When I stood in front of her body, I remember I was her sole caregiver. Like I said, I was the only person who went to identify her body, obviously, because there was nobody else. And it was horrific. I don't want to get into the details of that. I don't want to upset anybody. But I'll tell you one thing, okay? That's when I had an epiphany when I was standing in front of her body that thank God we're just not this body. I knew for a fact that that's not my mom. That's just her vessel, and she's so much more than that. That's when it really struck me, that epiphany. Up until then, you can read so much and listen to other spirit mediums talk about it, but when it happens personally, it just hits you in a different way, and you finally realize that thank God we're just not this body. Can you imagine? There are so many horrible ways in which people pass away. But speaking of this, I'm gonna talk about this book, Afterlife of Billy Fingers. Okay, it's in my hand. This is a book. And again, an amazing read. This is written by his sister, Annie Kagan, Kagan, and the foreword is by Dr. Raymond Moody. So her brother passed away in an unpleasant manner. However, in this book, it's revealed her brother's spirit helped to write this book. Okay, helped her to write this book. She channeled his spirit, and he helped her to write this book, I believe. It's been a long time since I've read this book, but it's an amazing book. And what I was saying is that when we have a collision or we die in a very horrible manner, God is kind enough to make sure that our spirit has a choice to split from the physical body and to witness the event. But bottom line is they don't feel the pain. That's what I've heard a lot of psychic mediums also talk about, that there's no pain when such horrific, it could be a car crash or airplane crash. When these things occur, our spirit actually detaches from the body. That I came to know in this book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. Another great read if you are looking to grow spiritually, to understand your soul's journey, and just to liberate yourself from the fear associated with death and dying. I highly suggest these books. So let me just show you what books I have here, okay? So I showed you guys Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody. I read this after I read his book Paranormal, My Life in the Pursuit of the Afterlife. Then I showed you this as well, The Light Beyond. This is a sequel to Life After Life. And then we come to another amazing, amazing read by James Van Praagh. It's called Ghosts Among Us. I love this book so much. It is so fascinating. And this is called Ghosts Among Us, Uncovering the Truth About the Other Side. Everything you always wanted to know about ghosts, but were too afraid to ask. This is an amazing read. And I have another book by him. Let me just show you them first, okay? Adventures of the Soul, Journeys through the Physical and Spiritual Dimensions. It's a very beautiful cover. I love all these covers. They're so mystical and spiritual. I love it. So Dr. Raymond Moody's book and James Van Praagh's book, I would highly recommend if you're mourning, if you're going through a hard time and you have so many questions unanswered about the afterlife, and if your loved one is okay on the other side. And not only these, I don't have the physical copy of the book, but there's another book by Matt Fraser, We Never Die. I highly recommend that as well. I have it on my Kindle. I mean, my Kindle is somewhere here. It's probably in the bedroom, but this is a cover. It's very beautiful. Matt Fraser is amazing. I listen to his YouTube. I always tune into his YouTube channel, and you can as well, because I believe he does make videos regularly. He's very, very informative, and he's amazing. This book is a must-have. I would suggest everybody to read this book. And I'm going to suggest another book by an Indian author. She has long since passed, but her name was Khorshed Bhavnagri. And her book is called Laws of the Spiritual World, okay? That is an equally amazing read. I can't praise that book enough. So let me just read a bit from this book, okay? What it says in the back for you, the blurb. From a very young age, James Van Praagh was aware of a dimension that most of us cannot see. And he has dedicated his life to explaining it to the rest of us. So this book takes us on an incredible journey into the spirit world that brings to light one of our greatest mysteries. what happens to us after we die. And then there are a bunch of reviews. There's even one by Jennifer Love Hewitt. I believe she was in The Ghost Whisperer, and James Van Praagh had produced that show, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, he's a very gifted, world-renowned psychic medium, as is Matt Fraser and also John Holland, and there's so many more. But this book is very thought-provoking, and it is worth its weight in gold. I would highly recommend this book. It's one of my favorite books on ghosts and the afterlife. And there's so many interesting stories in this book. And also in Matt Fraser's book, We Never Die. I can't recommend these books enough. So I keep these books with me for comfort. Like, I've read these books, but I love having them near me because there's nothing negative in these books. It's very positive. Usually, there's so much of negativity associated with death and dying, and nobody really talks about it while growing up. But I really feel that it's important to talk about death, so you can truly appreciate life and not be afraid when it's your time to move on. These days, I'm also reading Harold Sherman's books. I never even came across him before, and I'm really shocked because I've been reading about the paranormal for so long, but his books are equally amazing. And he also started writing in the 70s. And his book was published. The first book, I believe, was published around the same time Dr. Raymond Moody's works were published. And it's called The Dead Are Alive. They Can and Do Communicate With You. He has written many books, but I'm reading that one right now. And it is amazing. The encounters, experiences shared by psychic mediums in that book with Harold Sherman is amazing. And how to contact and communicate with your loved ones. I'm not an advocate of communicating through Ouija board because, like many of you have heard and also seen in mainstream Hollywood movies, what happens after that. However, I do believe in spirit visitations through dreams. My mom has actually come to me in my dream state many times right after she passed away to let me know that she's okay. Let me share a very beautiful story time with you guys. So this will give you a lot of hope if you've also lost your loved one. My mom, like I said, I was her sole caregiver, and I used to love buying her clothes. I used to love buying her colorful sweaters and nice dresses, whatever she would like. Even though she was not at all materialistic, my mom never needed anything except for a good time, a nice conversation, good food. It took very little to make her happy. And every time something good happens in my life, I always credit it to her. I always thank her. Sorry about all the honking outside, okay? I'm in India, so you can only imagine the kind of traffic noise that comes. And my balcony is right opposite the main road, so just bear with me, okay? So let me get back to this beautiful story time. And I hope this story, this real experience, gives you a lot of encouragement and hope for your loved one doing absolutely fine on the other side. So like I said, my mom had a very grisly death, you can say. I wasn't even beside her when she passed away, and she died in a lot of pain. I do believe that because after I witnessed her body, when I went to identify it, I could tell that she must have died in pain. And the reason why it was traumatic is because during the COVID time, that was peak COVID, and people were dropping like flies. It was really horrible. And we couldn't sue anybody. During that time, the government made a policy where you can't sue the medical workers and professionals no matter what happens. And I'm not discrediting all the amazing doctors who help patients, but in this particular hospital, my mom was abandoned after we admitted her. Nobody even knew where, the hospital lost her body. They didn't even know where she was. It got so bad that my dad had to get help from the police to go and locate her body. And you can only imagine how that felt for me, especially. And anyway, so after she passed, after a few weeks, I actually saw her in my dream early morning. And I'm a Bengali. In Bengalis, we believe that if you see a dream early morning, that actually means it actually does manifest. It does have significance. And in my other videos, I have shared how I grew up as a, I'm not going to say clairvoyant, but I do have precognitive abilities in the sense that when you dream something, it does happen. And I have seen a few things that have happened, like accidents, deaths, and whatnot, but I'll get into that later in another story time. Sorry, let me get back to the actual experience. So she came in my dream, my mom, one morning, and I saw her glowing, okay? She was glowing from the kitchen, and she was wearing the most beautiful new sweater, and I was puzzled seeing her because I knew that I didn't buy her that. But she was smiling, and telepathically she conveyed to me that this sweater is given by God. Like, she's being taken care of by God, so I don't have to worry. Like I said, I used to always be the one to buy her sweaters in wintertime, really colorful ones, which she would love. And she showed me, she was wearing this beautiful sweater. I even remember it was blue and white, and it had brown buttons. And she was smiling, and she was kind of letting me know that she's being taken care of by God. That gave me a lot of hope, a lot of hope. And I just woke up feeling unconditional love. Whenever I see my mom in my dreams, I wake up feeling like I had the best sleep ever, and I feel so relaxed, and it's just unconditional love that I have with her. And I was relieved seeing that dream because I was praying to have a sign from her that she's okay, and finally she came through and she showed me this. And she has come in different dreams as well. And in Hindus we have rituals after the 13th day. When someone passes away, we do certain rituals to make sure to offer peace to the souls of the departed. And during COVID time, it was very difficult to follow all these protocols. So she did come in my dream. This was before the dream I had where she was okay. And she was showing me few vegetables and fruits that she wanted. This has a lot of significance as a Bengali, as a Hindu, because in the rituals, we do offer fruits and food, certain types of vegetables and food. But it was amazing that she communicated with me, and I'm really blessed that she comes in my dreams, and I have spirit visitations from her in that manner. I even kept a dream journal where I have written down the timing and what I have seen, especially with regards to my mother. So I'm telling you, if you are grieving, you don't have to grieve anymore. I know it's easier said than done. I'm still not used to the fact that my mom's not there. She was my best friend. I used to share everything with her, but I'm blessed that she is there in the spirit realm. She's very much with me. She does communicate with me through my dreams. And I pray to her. If you're hurting, I would suggest that you pray to your loved one. They would be more than happy to be there for you and to help you. You have a spiritual family out there, and books like these are so enlightening. They're such good reads. I wish people would teach us this as kids in schools. Can you imagine how our lives would be if people would talk about spiritual development, spiritual welfare from a young age, instead of just dodging the whole concept of dying and death? It doesn't have to be negative. It is sad because we do miss our loved ones in the physical plane, but books like these have given me so much of hope, especially Dr. Raymond Moody's book, because that's the one that changed my life. Paranormal, My Life in the Pursuit of the Afterlife. I can't recommend it enough. And I really love these authors. And if you're looking for spiritual development, self-care, and just to change your life for the better, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't talk about this. I highly suggest Anita Moorjani's book. Dying to Be Me. I can't believe I didn't talk about this before. It's an amazing read. Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. She had a near-death experience. She was dying of cancer. I believe it was 4th stage cancer, and the doctors had given up, and they even told her to get her families to visit her. And lo and behold, after this NDE, where she met her father as well, who had passed away long since, she completely transformed. She healed herself. She came back healed, and she has been spreading her message ever since. And the person who discovered her was Dr. Wayne Dyer. Now, Wayne Dyer passed away recently, but I have to tell you, this is another story time. I actually had the honor and privilege of talking to him. Thanks to my friend, he is a gifted psychic medium, and he was in Albany, New York, and he was a friend of Dr. Wayne Dyer. And when he called him, I actually took the opportunity to talk to him myself, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I was so happy. I was like, that was one of the best moments in my life ever, one of the best. Like, I was so happy to talk to him, and I told him my name and if he's gonna come to India, and he was so happy. And I told him that I loved him. I had that cheesy fangirl, I'm not gonna say fangirl, but that moment when you admire someone so much that you're out of words, you're so joyful and speechless that you blurt out whatever. But it wasn't whatever. I do love him. I love all these authors, and I'm so thankful to them for their works, because it changed. I got rid of fear of death completely. And when something paranormal happens with you, when you experience a paranormal, it's a blessing. I don't think it should be seen as something negative. Of course, I'm not talking about a haunting or something negative if you're troubled by it, but dream visitation, spirit visitation of loved ones, sending you signs from heaven. What could be a greater gift or a greater proof that we do survive? There is an afterlife. And YouTube is full of such amazing videos. These days, instead of watching movies, I very much enjoy watching, not these days, but for a long time, I really enjoy watching YouTube and seeing other people share their experiences, and also these amazing psychic mediums who have their channels as well. If you're going through a tough time, I highly would advise you to go and check out these videos. You know, that is very reassuring in your heart that you're not alone, and there's so much proof out there. And you know, I was talking about Khorshed Bhavnagri's book, Laws of the Spirit World. I have the Kindle version of that. I have I believe I bought 3 paperback copies of that book as well. It is that amazing. I told my dad to read it, and he gifted it to his friend. Now, you can't give these books to everyone because not everybody is spiritually enlightened or into reading these books. I'm not saying I'm so spiritually enlightened, but I believe it's good to be, at least you should have basic enlightenment about who you are, about your real nature. So, you know, so you know your purpose, you know who you are, and you're not afraid anymore. So anyway, about this book, another must read by Khorshed Bhavnagri. She was an Indian Parsi woman, and her book is amazing, called Laws of the Spirit World. Okay, I have it here. This is an amazing book as well. And look what it says in the cover. There is no religion in the spirit world. We worship one God only. We worship one God only. And her sons actually passed away in the 80s. And through automatic writing, I believe there was someone who was practicing automatic writing, a medium nearby. And her sons communicated with her. And with the help of both of her sons, she wrote this book. And it's amazing how I came across this book. I never knew about this book before. I did hear about this author, but I never read her book until I was watching TV. And I don't really watch TV. I never watch TV, but my mom was watching TV, and I saw there was like a music channel, and there was this model showing what's in her bag or something like that. And then I came across this book. It stood out to me, and I actually paused it, and I told my mom, just hang on a second. And I ended up buying this book, and I'm so thankful that I did. So like I said, books are also very mystical. These books, they come to you at a opportune time where you need the book, because books are healing. Books healed me. They healed me. They gave me hope, and it's a reassurance. It's very reassuring to read such books. I'm happy that I was able to show you physical copies of these books. I love these books so much, and I'm sure there are so many other books out there, but these are some of the jewels that have changed my life. And I want you to know that you're not alone, and if you're grieving, do yourself a favor and try to get hold of these books. I got most of these books from Amazon. All these books I got from Amazon. You can get it at your bookstore. If you know someone who has them, you can ask to borrow those books and read them. And Kindle is much cheaper than buying physical copies of books, at least on this side of the world. So I end up buying a lot of books on Kindle. And it's more convenient for me to carry my Kindle everywhere. And you don't need the device. You can just read it on your phone as well. So it's very convenient. And these are really quick reads. These are easy reads. It's not difficult to get through these books. And all of these books that I showed you, they're unputdownable. So yeah, never fear death again. Be happy that you are part of the infinite ocean of God. And it's so important to know your real identity and basically to understand things from a spiritual perspective. If you know your real nature, if you understand things from a spiritual perspective in life, no matter what you're going through, you're going to not take things personally so much. Even if someone disrespects you, there's a situation that is very uncomfortable, and people are judging you, you're not going to hold it personally against them. You'll start seeing everything from a spiritual perspective. And the psychic friend I told you about, his mom actually told me this, and it has changed my life for the better ever since. I don't take people personally anymore, because most people, everyone is having their own struggles to fight, and if they don't get along with you, chances are they don't even get along with themselves. So it's good to have compassion and just detach yourself. Don't observe, but don't absorb like a sponge. That will really help. So if you stayed with me all this time, I'm happy that you did, and I hope these books really help you out. They really did help me out, and they still do. I find myself going back to these books time and again, and it's so comforting and assuring. And don't feel so sad. It is sad, but know that your loved ones have just transitioned. Oh, and you know, Dolores Cannon is an authority on past life regression therapy. Her books are amazing as well, Dolores Cannon. I can't stress that enough. And in her book, she actually has patients. She has passed away. She doesn't have patients now, but in the book, she has presented interview sessions with the patient who was being regressed, and she refers to them as SC, the Supreme Conscious Soul, that ends up speaking to her in these sessions. And she's had so much of knowledge through that, which she shared with the world. And one thing that I'd like to talk about here is how death is something we have had practice at for countless times before in our different incarnations on earth. So it's something that's very easy to do, apparently. Okay, this is coming from the Supreme Soul itself. There's a supreme higher self in each one of us, and when she would put them through therapy, like, you know, the what do you call that? Regressive therapy. I hope I'm not messing that up, but the supreme consciousness of the person, the individual, would come through and convey this to her. The process of dying and how easy it is. It's like slipping away from one room into the other. That's from one of her books. That's how easy it is, and that's how we've had so much of practice at it that we shouldn't be afraid of it at all. So if you want, you can definitely check out Dolores Cannon's books. There are many videos online, and it is profound knowledge on who you are, your soul's journey, and it will help to understand why you have certain experiences in this life much better. Okay, so I'm going to take your leave now. I hope these books and this video will help you, and I want you to know that I'll pray for you. I'm sending you so much love and blessings to get through whatever you're going through. And remember, there's always hope, and you don't have to go and pay a professional to get help. All I'm saying, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Therapy is healthy as well, but if you can't afford therapy, books are also a form of therapy. Okay, it's a form of self-love. It's a form of taking care of yourself and growing spiritually. So that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you like this video, do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with someone who needs to hear this, who might be going through a hard time, who's grieving. I really do believe these books will help them a whole lot and make them feel a whole lot better. So take care and stay blessed, and I'll see you soon with another video.